On this episode of Industry Relations, Rob and I beat a dead horse that actually might not be dead. Let's go. This is Industry Relations, a podcast that's at the intersection of real estate and technology from an insider's perspective, with Rob Hahn and Greg Robertson.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Industry Relations. This episode brought to you by our friends at NoteRouter. And fabulous Greg Robertson will be telling you more about them shortly. But speaking of the fabulous one, how are you, sir?
Yeah, I can't fight it anymore. I don't know.
Not bad. I have named you. I have dubbed the fabulous Greg Robertson.
Hola, Rob. How are you, man?
Hola. I'm good, man. I been out in the sun a bit, so I feel like, God, I'm finally tanning. You know,
touching some grass out there. That's good.
Exactly. You know, and what's funny is my son, my oldest, is working as a lifeguard in Houston.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I figure by the end of the summer, people are going to think he's Mexican. It's going to happen.
Now, how do Koreans do Koreans bronze a bit? I mean,
I don't know, because the reason I say that is when I first, like, one of the first early memories when I moved to the States, I didn't speak English that well, right? So I spent the summer before going to a new school, you know, outdoors, because the apartment complex had a pool. Mm-hmm. So I spent like every day outside. It got really brown. So I show up at school. I don't speak English. They stick me in an ESL class with a bunch of like Puerto Ricans and Mexicans. And the teacher's like, this kid's retarded. Like, he can't. Then they figured out, oh, you're not actually Mexican. You're Asian.
Yeah. So the Ola Rob is it's actually bringing back some flashbacks and PS.
Lots of memories from my youth. But hey, Matt, speaking of flashbacks, I think we decided we're going to do a bit of a Back to the Future, beat the dead horse type of deal today. Because it turns out the dead horse ain't that dead. And it doesn't matter how often you and I keep talking about, you know, big important issues and legal developments and whatnot. Others are finally sort of starting to come around, right? Yeah. What's the story, man? What's the word?
You know, I think Inman News has done a week-long series. The first two installs were written by Andrea, and I think Jim has taken over from that. I've read those three, and just talking about and they've got some superlatives in the headlines about what people are saying. The bombastic, lawsuits that are going on and how they're going to affect real estate. And I think they're doing a good job of kind of like now kind of in the mainstream talking about these issues of what actually does happen if these things actually come to fruition, if buyers have to pay their agent's commission, right? So right. We've been talking about it more of a, kind of inside baseball stuff, but this is getting more out there. And I think now agents and brokers are more into that. So I'm actually kind of happy about it, because I think this is a bigger thing nobody's been talking about. And as these lawsuits get certified as class action and things like that, those things start to come to fruition. People have to like pay attention, and I think it's a good thing for sure.
Sure. So I'm happy to do it, obviously, because I feel like I'm the guy that started off like the minute the lawsuit was launched, and I think what I write, like, Götterdämmerung, right? It's like Twilight of the Gods. Like this was a earth-shattering, disruptive event. And I still remember, man, immediately after that first article dropped, I just got a huge amount of just pushback, right, from the community. Like, oh, Rob, you're being Chicken Little. Get out of here. NAR is going to win this. These lawsuits have no merit, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you don't understand. These lawyers are not the same quality of lawyers that NAR and Realtor Associates and MLSs historically have had to deal with, right? I mean, there are always guys bringing lawsuits against NAR and realtors and MLSs, but they were just like these little ambulance chaser type dudes.
Yeah.
They weren't Cohen Milstein. They weren't some of these big boys who are coming after us now. So,
well, there's still a lot about, I mean, if you read some of the comments and some of the articles on Inman, I mean, there's still a little bit of ostriches out there, right? And
not more than a little bit.
Yeah.
And what I find amusing is how they want to get on the comments at Inman and make legal arguments, like why the plaintiffs are wrong, why the court is. I'm like, make those arguments in court, man. Because like, what do we're reading magazine on, like none of us are serving on that jury. None of us are the judge, in these cases.
I mean, what's going to be interesting is that, be due to this, the latest one about certifying as class action, what's going to happen in Missouri is people are going to start getting notices in their mailboxes about, hey, have you sold a home in the past, blah, blah, blah. You should join this, right? So
that's 9 years. Yeah.
That doesn't mean that, this is all valid or anything. It's just a procedural thing. But still, it's going to be, that's going to start waking up some people out there as well when, these realtors start getting phone calls from their past clients. Imagine that, right? So,
well, and I think I wrote this when I did sort of an update on it. It's like, okay, this got certified as class action, right? So it's just, let's run down a few things at a high level. And again, this is a bit of a repeat of stuff that you and I have been discussing on this program for a few years now, right? Like, it's like we are way early to the party. Like we're the pioneers, man. We blazed this damn trail. But a few things to think about is, okay, that was certified. Every case so far, like the Department of Justice intervened on the side of the plaintiffs. The judges have been pretty damn hostile to the defendants. It's pretty clear it's not going to get dismissed. They're not going to get summary judgment. This is going to trial. The discovery is going to be ugly. It's going to be nasty. And these firms that are behind it have millions upon millions upon millions of dollars. They have some of the best lawyers in the country. They're going to kick some ass. Missouri got certified. Illinois, the Northern Illinois one, that's the Merle case, that's going to get certified. And I think those two probably end up getting joined. The thing that I wrote was, if I'm a ambulance chasing plaintiff's lawyer and I'm in Kansas, I'm in Texas, I'm in California, I'm filing suit tomorrow, right? Because then there's a good chance that it'll just get kind of wrapped up into this one huge case. And I won't have to do as much work. I'm still going to get my 40% of the winnings, right?
Right.
So I fully expect there to be more cases filed in all 50 states. I don't.
Well,
frankly, I don't know why it hasn't been done yet, but
I think, Missouri is going to be, I don't want to say litmus test, but it's going to be a test, right? Because, in order for them to gain any attention, a lot of people disregard those, I think I got one for an Apple iPod that I bought in, 2011 or something, right? And you could be entitled to whatever.
Right.
A lot of people disregard that stuff. So if the response to this from consumers isn't like, a huge swell or that really, and I think possibly, somebody could read that like, well, my realtor was, damn good. They really helped me out. Susan was fantastic or Bob was great. There might be much ado over nothing. So I think really there's going to be all eyes in Missouri. And as their namesakes goes, we're going to have to see the show me state.
Yeah.
Showing anything, right? So I think it's pretty much, I think right now, if I were some of the people you mentioned or some of the organizations you mentioned, I'd kind of see how this turns out in Missouri, whether or not, if it's successful there, that's going to be a bellwether. That's going to be the canary in the coal mine to tell me whether or not, that these other guys are going to file suit, right? Why go through the whole expensive process when we know that this is going to happen pretty soon here in one of the other states? What do you think?
Because the Missouri case only basically brought lawsuits against Missouri organizations, right, on behalf of Missouri consumers.
Yeah, but people sold houses are going to get, anybody who sold a house in Missouri, the state of Missouri is going to get.
Yeah. No, I know. What I mean is, so I'm just saying, if I'm a lawyer in Kansas, right, the Missouri disposition doesn't help me at all. I don't get paid because the Missouri lawsuit got disposed of, right? I need to file a lawsuit in Kansas.
No, but I'm saying, why file anything unless, why don't you let this play out and see, is this class action does it amount to anything? Are the dogs going to eat the dog food, right? Are they
right?
Are the home sellers or home buyers going to actually get? Is it going to be a groundswell thing, or is it going to be like a whimper and like, okay, well,
but that's not how this is going to work, right? So first of all, it's a class action that's on behalf of everybody, right? So it's not. Yeah, of course they're going to go out and try and get as many people into the class as possible. But if you think about like the asbestos stuff or tobacco, sometimes it's like we win at trial. Right. So let's say the Missouri case goes through, the lawyer, the plaintiffs win, and there's a judgment for $6 billion, right? Then what ends up happening is, hey, have you sold a home in the last 9 years? You are owed compensation. Call the law firm of whatever, Dewey, Cheatham and Howe. We're going to file on your behalf that, and this, because it's not like the $6 billion is just going to get paid out, right? It's going to be like $6 billion held in this big sort of a pool of money to pay damage, quote unquote, damages to all these consumers who are harmed, right? So if the class is, let's say, 1,000 people, those 1,000 people get paid out immediately. The lawyers, take their third or whatever, and then the rest of it is kept in this, this damages fund, right? So if I'm Kansas, I don't get any of that because it's only Missouri, right? So if I'm, again, it's a risk reward thing, and different lawyers and different law firms have to make their own judgments. I'm just saying, it seems pretty obvious to me that the next step is a bunch of big plaintiffs law firms are going to look at this and go, oh, cool, look at that. It's a pot of money. It looks pretty good. We're not sure it's going to win, but again, it survived dismissal. It survived, it's class action certification. And courts, that's just the thing about our legal system. Judges like to follow other judges. Nobody really likes being first, right? So some judge in Kansas is going to, oh, well, Missouri did this, so sure, I'm going to go along with that, right? Some judge in Florida, it's like, I don't have to do extra work. It's the same case, same facts, same everything, different defendants, different plaintiffs, fine, but Missouri ruled like this, so I'm just going to, follow that, right? So I do think. Now, having said that, let's be honest about this. I've been very wrong about timing on this, right? Because, like I said, if I'm one of those lawyers, I'm filing suit right now because I feel like my chances of winning are pretty good. I don't have to spend a huge amount of money. I just have to find 2 or 3 people and just say, hey, class action lawsuit in Kansas. Hey, class action lawsuit in Nebraska. Hey, class action lawsuit in Texas and Florida, wherever, right? I mean, it hasn't happened.
Why hasn't that been done?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. It's something I would love to go to the plaintiff's bar and be like, so why haven't you guys filed lawsuits in all 50 states? Do you know what I mean?
Right.
But for whatever reason, they haven't. I figure it's just a matter of time that happens, though, right? So the MLSs and the realtor organizations that are kind of sitting on the outside going, hey, let's just wait and see, watch Missouri and see what happens there. To me, that's a giant fucking mistake.
Right.
You should expect that you are going to get served. You should expect that it's coming to you, right? It just because it hasn't yet doesn't mean it's not coming. You might as well just prepare for it to come.
Right. Which we've been saying, right? I mean,
we've been saying for years.
Mentality, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Have a bit of a prepper mentality. So I think that's certainly going to happen. Now, the articles that you mentioned are really talking about what happens after. Right. So after the nuclear bomb drops, what happens?
Well, it also gives a good history of where we are now.
Right.
Why this is happening. And then, what is going to happen? What could be the consequences of buyers having to pay their agent commission directly. Right. So that's where that's at. I know that NAR has gone and they have their own site. I was sent over something, realestateCommissionFacts.com. We'll put that in the show notes. And that just goes over some of the cases and, what NAR's official responses to those. And people can go to that again. And that site's realestateCommissionFacts.com.
Yeah, I'm on it right now.
Okay.
Yep. How real estate commissions work, fact about commissions, FAQ. Yep. Okay.
And then I also understand is that, I think NAR is going to go out and start doing a media tour about this.
Sure,
I'm sure they did something like that about how to negotiate in a tough market like this.
Sure,
and then you have all these cases, and the backdrop though is interest rates have risen.
Yep.
I one of the things I do for my product, Cloud Streams, is I subscribe to all the listing alerts and all the portals to see how ours perform against others. And I can't tell, it's just, it's price reduced. So there's a lot of reductions going on that have been starting. So you kind of see that happen in the market. So all these things here are going to be in the backdrop of a market that's really changing quickly.
Right.
and interest rates going up. And maybe that changes the value dynamic that people put on real estate agents. Maybe it's not so, it's going to be less easier just to turnkey and sell a house, with multiple bids. It's going to be hard. I think it's been hard. I think buyer's agents are probably are actually earning their commission by getting, some of these buyers that have been looking actually to get a house, right? Because it takes a little bit of, elbow grease to kind of get in front of, what it has been with multiple offers and finding the right house, getting, being first to know those kind of things. So, it's going to be interesting. All these things together, we're going to see what happens for sure.
But I mean, you don't think that that's kind of an impact on the outcome of the cases, right?
Well, it could, yes and no. It could, maybe if things start changing, real estate for new cases, maybe it's less appetizing for new people to come in here because, oh my God, this place is a shit show now. What am I, why, this is not like, the sentiment out there is not like it was before. Do I want to kind of get in there? Maybe on that case, but maybe not on the existing.
Let me think about that. Because any new case that gets filed, so let's say one gets filed in Florida, right?
Right.
The claim would be in the last, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years, if you sold a home, right, you are screwed and you are owed compensation.
Hey, everybody. I'm so excited to announce our inaugural sponsor of the Industry Relations Podcast, NoteRouter. NoteRouter was launched back in 2018 by Nick Goff, and they had the mission of reconnecting real estate. NoteRouter is an all-in-one email and texting platform designed exclusively for real estate. NoteRouter syncs with your membership database to make communicating with your members easier and more effective. Believe me, your staff is going to love you for this. If you're an association or MLS and you want to do a better job with communicating with members, really look no further. They've just launched a brand new website. It looks fantastic, by the way. I'll put the URL in the show notes. It's NoteRouter.com. Go there, take a look. You'll find everything you need. Once again, thank you, Nick. Thank you to everybody at NoteRouter for sponsoring the Industry Relations Podcast. Rob and I truly appreciate your support.
Okay, yeah, rates are higher. The prices are starting to moderate. I don't know if that makes any difference for some homeowner who gets, some email or some piece of mail. It's like, hey, did you sell a house in the last 7 years? Like, if so, you are screwed and you are owed compensation. Like, and they're gonna be like, it could be as much as $30,000. Like, I think a lot of people will be like, let me call this lawyer. Don't you think?
Yeah. Right. I mean, I guess I'm thinking on like, will the real estate industry in the future look like such a bloated money bag? You hear layoffs, no. You hear all this kind of stuff right here. So
it will not. I mean, right. So look, man, I just wrote this
judgment of people coming into this, and suing, right? I mean, that's, I guess, on a base level, that's what I'm thinking.
Possibly, but I again, I think if you're a homeowner, or if you're somebody, you're a homeowner, you sold a home in the last 5 years or something, right? You made a shit ton of money, but people tend to be pretty selfish, right? Because somebody comes and says, hey, you could get a $30,000 judgment. So I think they're going to be like, it costs you nothing, that sort of thing.
We'll definitely see. I mean, that's going to be interesting. I mean, I just don't, I have a feeling, this is the feeling I have right now. There is somebody there that knows a lot more about class action suits and the law and everything, who's yelling at their radio right now.
Right.
Wherever they're listening to this podcast, like, you dumb shits don't know anything about how this is done.
Yeah.
So hopefully they'll leave a YouTube comment of telling how much we have no clue about, which is completely,
which would be great.
Yeah, which is great and completely true.
It could be great. I would love to have an experienced class action antitrust litigator willing to come on this program and talk to us about this, because I don't know a lot, man, but I do know, I do know a bunch. Right. And I think I've got this pretty correct as far as the lawsuits go, right?
Right.
But the thing is, I mean, to your point, okay, we have the thing. Think about, and maybe I'm thinking about it too much because I just wrote this 6-part fucking series, right, on the 4 horsemen, and this was horseman number 1. Let's just assume this is gonna work. That the players are all gonna win, right? Okay, what happens next? What does it look like next, right? And in the short term, it looks really bad, right? In the short term, it's a bloodbath. In the longer term, I think it's much nice. It's much better. I don't think it's actually that dark. I think I'm pretty white-pilled about that. But in the short term, it's going to be a bloodbath, right? And most institutions, most organizations are simply not ready for it. Right.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the way I'm looking at this is that, and to be honest, on one of the articles on Inman, I actually put a comment in there, right? And we've talked about this before. It's like consumers have the choice to do what the DOJ wants to do now. They could go to a discount brokerages. They could go to models that refund, and I'm putting that in air quotes for those of you that listening and can't see the YouTube channel, that refund the buy side commission back. Mm-hmm. So there are solutions that consumers already have right now that are available to them if they want this world, right? In a sense.
Okay.
I mean, it's not exactly the mechanism. They're not, nobody wants to pay no buyer wants to pay commission, but they're not having to pay it, right? In a sense, right? So a lot of time to me is, where's the pony here? And those models have not been the most successful out there.
Right.
It seems like maybe Americans are different, where they want a full service thing. They want that handholding. They want that trusted advisor. They keep on bringing up Australia and France.
Right. Right.
And all these other kind of things. Well, it's what? I think a fair amount of the world would say America is different.
Right.
More ways than one, right? And
more ways than one. That's right.
And culturally could be one of the things. We like our guns and we like our real estate agents. I don't know, right? How you want to put that, right? But so again, there's just a lot of this to me is like, where's the pony here?
What do you mean, where's the pony?
Well, I mean, again, if what the DOJ is after, if what these lawsuits are after is that, that the buyer should pay their own commission, right?
Pay their own agent.
Pay their agent, right? That there are kind of models out there that get to the same end to that, maybe not exactly that, but are basically the same thing, and they're free to go choose those models. Go.
Okay. I mean, but that's not going to prevail, right?
Well,
in other words, Greg, you're making a policy argument, and I could agree with you on the policy of this 100%, right? And this is what I kind of mentioned about agents and Inman comments, like making legal arguments. I'm like, that's cool, but these are all policy arguments. What's actually going to happen at trial is that the court is going to hold for the plaintiff and basically not care about your policy argument.
Well, I don't know if I wouldn't, having multiple real estate models in the country, I'm not sure that's a policy argument. That's there's competition of real estate business models out there, right? I'm not sure.
I guess. I mean, it's a fact-based thing, but like you said, these discount models don't work. They don't have any market share, right? So the question becomes, why don't they? Right. So the argument comes down to this, right?
Okay. So you're saying
let's boil it down.
Why those discount models don't work is because of this other.
That's what the plaintiffs will claim, right? Bullshit. That's what the plaintiffs will claim. So let's break it down. And I've felt this from the very beginning. This lawsuit entirely turns, in my opinion, on how prevalent steering is. Right.
Yeah.
This notion of buyers refuse to show houses or steer clients away. Buyer agents steer their clients away from properties that are not paying, quote, full compensation, right? If that's 80% of the time that happens, then the plaintiffs win. If that's 1% of the time it happens, then the defendants win. I mean, I really do think it's sort of that simple, right? I'm probably wrong about that. And this would be a great time for an antitrust attorney to come in and tell me how wrong I am. But both sides are going to make all these arguments, right? And a lot of it's going to be policy, but at the end of the day, the way the courts work is they care about policy, but they, really have to just look at the law, right? And right now, the plaintiffs are going to win that, I think.
Well, so let's break down your definition of steering, because that's a loaded word, right? So steering can be, as we saw in Long Island, agents kind of like, through body gestures or just outright saying it, you don't want to move to that neighborhood because of A or B or C.
Right. Yeah, I don't mean that. I don't mean racial steering or gender. I don't mean protected categories.
You're talking about steering in the sense of like, I don't want you to work with that. I don't want you to work with that broker because they're not offering full compensation or a discounted compensation. Right. And I know, I know this is something you and I disagree with, because to me, and especially now that a lot of MLSs are putting that compensation, buyer's compensation, in their feeds, they can't hide these houses from consumers. The consumer is going to say, well, that's 3 bedrooms, it's got vaulted ceilings and 2 baths, and it's 2,000 square feet. That's exactly the house I want the house I want to buy. Right. Show me that house. Right. It's not the olden days of like the listings weren't out there, right? Where the agent was complete control of the MLS and only was a gatekeeper for data. The genie's out of the bottle, man. So I would argue with you that I don't think it's a slam dunk for them to win that steering argument.
I think it's a slam dunk because what you said is like, okay, cool. When did that rule pass? 2021.
No. I mean, just to have the buyer compensation is, but the listings have been on the internet since the early 2000s.
I understand, but my point is NAR did not change its rules talking about, like you're allowed to put in $1 for compensation. You're not allowed to claim that your services are free. They didn't make those changes until 2021. Right,
but that wasn't the single component. The single component of making it is having all the listings on the internet.
But the issue that's steering is buyer agents are steering their clients away from homes that don't offer full compensation. Right.
All right. But buyers have access to all the homes in the market.
Right. And the claim will be buyers have access to it. So all I'm saying is whatever changes to the MLS, all that was recent. That's 2021. Okay.
No. I mean, you're just disregarding the fact.
I'm not disregarding it. I'm just working through it. Right. All of those things were done in 2021. These lawsuits are looking backward. Right. Like 5, 6, 7 years. Sure. So we now have to be talking more like 2010, 2015 timeframe.
Which to me is fine because all the listings are on the internet.
Right.
If this
right. So the claim has to be all the listings on the internet. Buyers can see all of it, and buyer agents aren't going to not steer it. Okay. That's the argument. Okay. And I'm like, look, I think it's a strong argument. It's a good argument. And then the question is, what evidence do you have, right, to support that argument? Because on the other side of that, with the plaintiffs, what they're saying is, it doesn't matter if it's on the internet, the buyer agents are doing this, they're doing that, and here's the evidence. Okay, I'll give you the evidence.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Because Houston Chronicle ran this story a few years ago, and I remember talking about like, this is fucking disastrous. They found a training manual from Keller Williams that directed listing agents on how to overcome commission objections, right? And in their training manual, what Keller Williams was saying was, you should tell the seller, listen, I'm happy to work with you on commission, but here's the deal. If we don't offer the full compensation, then the buyer agents will not show your house. This is the industry's own training materials. I embedded a video from a Tom Ferry event from, I want to say it was like 2007, 2008. It wasn't like ancient days, right? Where the listing agent on stage is saying,
that's on the sell side, right?
But the lawsuits are why the commission on the sell side is so high, right? All I'm saying is that we have the industry itself instructing agents, training agents. Here's how you overcome a commission objection by blaming the buyer agent, right?
I mean, a couple of zealous bad apples is not going to, that is not going to think, because here's the trump to that.
Wait, the overzealous bad. We're talking about Keller Williams' official training manual. We're talking about Tom Ferry. Like, we're not. These aren't one-off bad apples. These are like the largest franchise in the country, the biggest coach in the country.
Misinformed. I don't know. Here's what I'm going to say: is that if I'm looking for a house, and we walk in there, and my wife says, "This is it," regardless of anything else, the goddamn consumers, my wife does not give a shit about who gets, if that's the house they want, that's the house they're getting. I think time and time again, no matter what fucking scripting book you use or what coach you're using, the fact that a house is on there that meets the criteria of a buyer, the buyer's going to go want to see that. And if they like the house, they're going to goddamn take it. There's no way that an agent can convince my wife once they say this is it. Well, maybe you should reconsider because I'm not going to make, the full fucking, money on it or some other kind of, it's just not going to work, man. I mean, in real life, in real practice, it's just, it's not going to work. I think if I'm, steal this scenario, attorneys on our side or the NAR side or whatever, because it doesn't work.
Oh, it's fine. I'm just saying that the NAR is going to produce evidence that's what happened. So like I said, man, I think
just telling that scenario to a jury and they're all going to nod their head. Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
Well, this is my past.
So think about this, right? What's going to happen is the defense lawyer is going to get up and tell your story. And this is a scenario, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. This is why steering is really not a thing. Okay. The plaintiff's lawyer is going to go up and go, let me show you this training video from Keller Williams, the #1 franchise in the country, that is instructing listing agents to tell their clients, hey, you should offer out 6%, the commission 6%, because if you don't offer 3% to buyer agents, those people, you know what? And this was from the Tom Ferry event. The average agent in the area does 3 transactions a year, which means that this transaction is 1/3 of their income. If you don't offer the full 3%, what are they going to do with your listing? What are they going to do with this house? They're going to crumple up and throw it in the trash. Yeah, it's a tough hill to climb. That's what I'm saying.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, these bombastic statements that my colleague there to the right is saying.
It's not the colleague. The colleague's not making the statements. Gary Keller's making the statements.
These statements that are put in these training manuals put out by people that really aren't practicing real estate, that are writing training manuals, they're just bad advice. There's a lot of training manuals that give bad advice. And I'll tell you why these kind of things will never work. And let me tell you a story here. Right now, boom, I'm in. Let's make the movie right now.
Okay.
Let's make the movie.
Okay. So if they're bad advice, and this training's been going on for 10 years, why didn't you stop them 9 years ago?
Yeah, who knows? You're picking. You know how much training manuals Keller Williams have? It probably fills a country mile worth of shit.
I'm not.
You're picking one, page 76 of the series of this blah blah blah.
Look, man, I'm not arguing with you on that. I'm just making the point that this is the way the lawyers work. This is the way that the law works, right? It's about evidence. You're going to make an argument, and then you have to produce evidence to back up that argument, right? So my point is, in order for the defense to win here, they have to produce a lot of stats. They have to produce studies. They have to bring experts, right, who say, you know what, despite these training manuals, despite these rules, despite any of that, there really was no harm here. There's no injury, right? Because steering is a small, tiny, it's a bad apple kind of deal. This is unethical.
It doesn't even work.
It doesn't work. Like you have to prove it.
Whoever's on the stand, I would say, let me ask you a question. If you walked into a house and your wife said that this is the house they want, would you not buy it because the agent is going to get, more commission on it? They would say absolutely fucking not. Mm-hmm. Done. Next witness.
Okay. I mean, then we'll see what happens. Having said that, as you and I have talked about quite a bit, I don't even think it matters. I don't actually believe that these lawsuits matter anymore, right? Because I think the action has entirely moved to the FTC. And you and I have mentioned
the DOJ, but yeah.
No, not even the DOJ, because DOJ is the enforcement wing, right? FTC is a regulator, right? And you and I have talked about it, was it a couple episodes ago? Yeah. We said Lena Khan, the commissioner of the FTC, got her the majority Democrat commission, right? It's no longer 3-3, it's 4-2 now. And I think you're the one who pointed out that she only has a certain amount of time. The clock is ticking, right? Because if the Republicans win, which they will in November, that changed the political landscape.
Hold on. That's a big statement there. What are you predicting?
A red wave, Republicans take the House. They might take the Senate.
Okay, might take the Senate. Okay.
Might, but they're most certainly going to take the House, right? That's not me saying that's like every pollster. That's fucking Democrats themselves saying it. You know, unless there's some huge event on the current trends, what we know today, it's going to be a huge red wave. Republicans going to take the House.
Like Roe versus Wade, you think, you know?
I don't think so, because the polls I've seen post-Roe is that Republicans gained and Democrats lost, right? So I don't think it's going to reverse.
Let's not get into that for Christ's sake.
No, when I say red as events, it's like, who knows, like global thermonuclear war, something, you know, some major humongous event that makes a lot of undecided voters go, hey, you know what? Fuck those Republican guys. We need to go with the Democrats. It's not right now today. That's not what the political trends are pointing to. So she's got to act pretty quickly. And then after that, she's still going to be, you know, like Biden's still president for 2 more years, right? She'll have about 2 years left. I think they act via the FTC, not DOJ, not these lawsuits, right? And on that one, you make policy arguments for sure, right? Because that is nothing about legal precedents, not about that. It's about, okay, well, what should the regulations be, right? And on that front, I'm not sure what happens. My guess is that the FTC comes down pretty hard in the industry, right? And we've debated that already, which is why this episode is like beating a dead horse again. But I mean, what's your take? What do you think the FTC acts hard? And if not, why not?
Right. So, I mean, I think you're right. I did say, you know, they've only got a limited time. They only got limited resources. The article we read, it was nowhere talked about real estate. But, you know, and again, this is where my naivete about how the FTC works versus the DOJ. We had an agreement with the DOJ. They struck down that agreement. The NAR did. Right. But we're suing the DOJ, or is the DOJ suing us? I mean, NAR is suing the DOJ. Right. So we're in a lawsuit with the DOJ. We're in a lawsuit, and then there's other lawsuits that are naming MLSs and franchisors and brokerages, right?
But those are all civil.
Yeah. Right. So where do those all stand? I mean, I think that, you know, there is a relationship obviously between the FTC and the DOJ, but I'm not exactly 100% sure how. I think all that stuff, to me, I think that's less of a concern. I think I will agree with you here than it is these lawsuits, right? I'm
the other way. I'm saying the regulation is the bigger concern than the lawsuits.
See, I'm thinking now it's probably the other way, because they're not actively suing us. They're not actively doing anything. We're suing. When I say we, I'm saying, you know, organizers.
Yeah.
They're suing them. The stuff that they have to keep their eye on the ball right now is all these civil suits, right? Those are the ones that could be anything else. There's nothing actively happening, really.
I guess the question is, do you just want to wait until the FTC comes out with rules? Because that's what they're going to come out with. Here's some proposed regulations, right? And there'll be a period of public hearing where people can comment.
But it seems to me that, and again, I keep getting the FTC and the DOJ confused, but it seems to me that the way that's happening is that, didn't the DOJ or the FTC, I think it was the DOJ, did they give some sort of arguments in these cases? Like this should not affect, this ruling should not. So it seems to me they're working through these lawsuits and not kind of directly themselves. So that would, again, say to me that they're either going to support when they can't support when it supports their own goals, or they're going to wait and see to see how these things play out before they do their own moves, right? So again, to me, it goes to me that the things that we have to worry about now are the current lawsuits we have in there, because not only the plaintiffs are doing that, but also the fucking DOJ is helping them out in some regard, right?
For sure. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does, but here's the thing: what the DOJ and the lawsuits and all that, they tend to be a little bit reactive. And here's what I mean: Department of Justice is just an enforcement wing, right? So they bring lawsuits to say, "Hey, NAR, this rule violates the Sherman antitrust law," right? So we're going to sue to make you comply with the already existing law. The FTC is proactive. What the FTC can do is to come and say, "We don't give a shit about whether you're violating existing rules or regulations or laws. We're just going to give you some new rules," right?
Right.
So,
but I mean, they've got something. I mean, they've already got some stuff out there. To me, if I'm the DOJ, there's a lot of people doing my dirty work for me right now, right?
Right, and which is why they've been helping them.
Yeah. Let's help them out, right? Correct. So it's like,
correct.
The FTC
it's not the DOJ anymore.
Yeah, but the FTC doesn't even have to do anything because
that's it. No.
Handled.
Nah, right? Man, that's different. So you know what? Let's put it in terms that I think maybe our audience.
I know the executive order you're going to bring up, right?
No, it's not even that. I want to point out the difference between like DOJ and FTC. I think the way to think about it, the difference is the DOJ is like the MLS compliance department, right? Where if you violated a rule, we're going to send you a nasty email. We're going to, here's a fine. That's what the DOJ is really. The FTC is more like the MLS board of directors that make the new rules. So the FTC could come in and say, yeah, we're not suing you. We're not saying you violated something. We're giving you some new rules to obey, right?
Well, that was the executive order, though, right? When
the executive order was telling the FTC, please go make some new rules for the real estate industry, right?
Telling the DOJ.
No, telling the FTC.
Oh, FTC.
Because DOJ doesn't make rules.
Right? Yeah, right. Okay.
FTC makes the rules, DOJ enforces them. So the FTC just comes out and says, hey, here's a new rule for you. You can't share commissions anymore.
Right. Okay. But why would the FTC do that now when there's already an active lawsuits that are basically accomplishing the same goal?
Because the lawsuits are never certain. Lawsuits are never certain. And it's going to take 7 years. Yeah.
I mean, I'm just thinking from, and again, no experience in this, but if I'm the FTC and I've got a shitload of fucking work to do, right?
Yeah.
And I want to like promote this thing that, commissions are too high.
Yeah.
And I'm looking out there right now. Well, there's a lot of cases going on there that have the same kind of goal that I have. Instead of me doing anything work, I've got all this other work to do. If I can just help these guys out, I'm going to work on that for a while I work on these more important things. And then if things are starting to go awry there, then I'll enter.
That is entirely possible. And I gotta grant you, like, I don't know, because I don't work for the FTC. I've never worked there. I don't know what their thinking is. Maybe the FTC really does feel like we have bigger fish to fry than real estate, and DOJ is handling that. So it's entirely possible we see no regulation coming out of the FTC. Right. I mean, it's entirely possible. I don't think so, but that's entirely like my personal opinion based on read of the politics, because the FTC is a purely political organization, or rather much more purely political than the DOJ, right? In theory, because the DOJ is just supposed to enforce existing law. The FTC is supposed to make new policy. And I guess right now, I think housing is a really hot political topic, and it's going to become an even hotter political topic. Right. So the one way that the Biden administration can really, have a win, if you will, right, in the midst of gas prices and inflation and all this stuff, it would be great for the Biden administration to say, look, we are taking action to deal with high housing costs. Right. So here's one set of regulations around rentals, because that's going to be a big one. And here's a regulation to help homeowners and home buyers save money. Right?
Yeah.
I think that'd be a big political win for them, which is why I think it's going to happen. I could be completely wrong, man.
Yeah. Right? What I love about this conversation is that a lot of people don't know this, but Rob and I are going to be doing a live debate on this very topic.
We are?
At the Greater Las Vegas Association of Realtors Tech Forum.
That's right.
On the 26th. Right.
That's right.
It's going to be moderated by their MLS director, Rich. And I don't think we should talk about this anymore until then.
That's a good point, man, to get more people. So let's let people know when that is.
That's going to be August 26th.
All right. August 26th in Las Vegas.
In Las Vegas. We'll be recording it at their tech forum. It's being hosted by GLBAR. Stephanie Hill is putting it together. And super excited about that. So we'll be recording that. So let's these are giving, now that I know how you're thinking, it's funny because like a lot of people ask me, do you read Rob's stuff ahead of time? And like, if it's topics that I know we're going to talk about, I tend not to until after, because I like to hear it fresh first.
Yeah.
And then I'll go back and obviously read anything you got. But this feels like that kind of thing. So I'm going to be super excited for this. I'm prepping right now for this debate we're going to have, for this conversation we're going to have at the Tech Forum in Vegas.
Sorry, I didn't hear the last part of what you were saying, but you're good.
No, just super excited about I'm super excited about doing a live thing with you. So that'll be funny. And we'll catch that and we'll record that and put it on the podcast as well. I don't think we're going to have video. We'll see what happens, but
let's see if we could, make a video, because it would be awesome to get the audience, like, because so much of the time it's you and me chatting, and it would be great to have, people be able to say, hey, Rob, you're smoking crack, or hey, Greg, what about this, or whatever. Yeah. I think that'd be awesome. And if you're listening, consider coming to Vegas to attend the Tech Forum just to watch us. I'm just saying, it's going to be. And Vegas is fun. I live here. I could, take you all out to my favorite spots in Vegas. I think that'll be really fun. But all right. So, hey man, we beat that dead horse pretty good, I think.
Yeah, no, it might be dead now, but I guess it's not, because we're going to be talking about it in a month or so.
But here's the thing, man. It's only a dead horse to us.
Right.
If you think about it, right? Because we've been on this from the start. Now people are coming along with like, hey, what's going on with this lawsuit and stuff? Like, hey, man, Greg and I have been on this from the beginning. So we are trailblazers. All right, man. Always wonderful. If you have any questions, you have any thoughts, let us know. And once again, thanks to our sponsor, NoteRouter. Right?
Love it. Thank you, Nick. Thanks, NoteRouter, for supporting the Industry Relations podcast. And thanks for all the listeners.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
I'm so excited to announce our inaugural sponsor of Industry Relations podcast, NoteRouter. NoteRouter was launched back in 2018 by Nick Goff with the mission of reconnecting real estate. NoteRouter is an all-in-one email and texting platform designed exclusively for real estate. NoteRouter syncs with your membership database and makes communicating with your members easier and more effective. Your staff will love you for it. If you're an association or MLS that wants to do a better job of communicating with your members, look no further. NoteRouter has just launched a new website. It looks fantastic. It's NoteRouter.com. I'll put that information in the show notes and take a look. Again, Rob and I want to sincerely thank NoteRouter and Nick Goff for sponsoring this episode of Industry Relations.